A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Leovold versus Basim. And we have a couple of lands. Could try Tameo on turn 1, I suppose. We've got maybe a tap land. Then we can brainstorm and shuffle. Anyway, this is my first venture into Duel Commander, so we'll see how badly I screw everything up here, because never played this format and have not played 1v1 in years and years and years at this point. But about 70% of you that did vote voted for Duel Commander gameplay, so hopefully you're all watching this now. I'll keep a very close eye on the views, and if it does terribly then obviously I won't bother uploading anymore. But I thought I'd try and squeak this in before the next set comes out. So I'll go for a brainstorm now, seeing as how we need to shuffle before we go for a land anyway. What do we want here? I think I can get rid of Tainted Pact. Oh, of course, I could have gone for Once Upon a Time, the first screw up. So in that case, let's get rid of that. And then it's Polluted Delta, and we'll get ourselves into a Tameo. Why don't we, we'll just make it Underground Sea, because that's an untapped land and we can bounce it back with the days if we need to. So this is one of the new Tameos that can transform into a Planeswalker from a creature. Not worthy actually, the brainstorm would have been an easy way to trigger this, wouldn't it? So that we could transform it, so maybe could have gone for that instead and foregone the shuffle. Anyway, we'll bounce back the Underground Sea in order to counter the Demonic Tutor from our opponent. Alright, and there's a counter spell. I was going to say we can choose between cracking the clue token that we're about to get or going for a tap land, but now it's between cracking the draw card and playing the counter spell. We'll see what our opponent does on the next turn. So we attack in, get a clue token, then Basim deciding not to play anything, so we'll crack the clue token after all. And now deciding on the Orcish Bowmasters. So pointing that straight at us, and we'll draw a card to the clue token to buff up the Orc army and ironically get into an Orcish Bowmasters of our own. So do we play that on the upkeep here? Yeah, we can do that and then go for the Hedge Maze, I suppose. Don't have any counter magic to hold up anyway. So down that comes, we'll blow up their Bowmasters. And then draw into a forest for the turn. We'll take advantage of not being able to do anything. That can be the Hedge Maze. And a Memory Lapse is probably going to be a good idea to keep on top, I think. So then we can make another clue token. It's a 0/3 flyer, so can swing in quite consistently. Might as well make these artifacts while we can. And a Reanimate onto the Orcish Bowmasters will likely blow ours up. So pointed at ours. And it's a 3/3 Orc army that we have to deal with now. And Avadok and Shackles. He has 3 islands in play. And decides to swing in with the 3/3. Might as well block here because they can blow it up with the Orcish Bowmasters anyway quite easily. So what does this care about? Toughness? Power less than or equal to the number of islands you control. Okay. So let's play Prismatic Vista. Then if they play an island next turn, they'll be able to steal away Sheoldred, so it's probably best holding up Vendilion Clique and the other counter spells. I think I'm fine continuing swinging with Tameo here. And I am wondering if it was a better idea to transform it. We could have had a transformed Planeswalker this whole time. Maybe could have got the limit break off. But any Duel Commander aficionados can obviously tell us in the comments section. During the draw step we could have held priority there and gone for the Vendilion Clique to look at the cards in their hand. Did not play an island this turn, that is a Creeping Tar Pit though. So there we see the commander. We don't want them drawing any additional cards really, so let's go for a Memory Lapse onto this. And they decide to allow that to be countered. And it has gone on top of their library as well, which is noteworthy, so going to be drawing into it next turn. We take a hit for 3. And I think we're going to draw into the Bowmasters as well. Yeah, they steal away our Tameo, so let's just go for the Vista now. And draw a card to the clue token. Gets us into Demonic Tutor, which will also shoot us with the Orcish Bowmasters, so we're down to 12. So do we go Toxic Deluge here? Play the Forest. We'll have to put 4 life into it in total. And then they can still steal things away from us. We can blow up their commander now with this, assuming that that comes down next turn. I think we have to draw into Demonic Tutor. Really need to learn the format and the types of cards that we're likely to see, but we can't combo off or anything here. So grab the Toxic Deluge and we'll put 4 life into this. And didn't see any free counter magic thankfully, so might buy us enough time to carry on. Sheoldred, if we can keep hold of it for long enough, will gain us some life at least. Otawara is not an island either. Basim back into play. And there's a historic spell. Spellskite, going to keep his commander in play. And he draws a card. Alright, a Ponder can maybe get us into a land for the turn. Not likely that we're going to be holding up counterspell though. Alright, a Snap Mage, Wash Away now that the commander's come down isn't as good. Sink into Stupor can be a tap land at least, so probably what we go for. So it's Wash Away, Snap Mage, and Sink. Say no to the shuffle, draw into it, and play the tap land here. Let's see if we can get through counter magic. Also need to hope that our opponent doesn't play an island next turn. Alright, there's a Flare of Denial. You may sacrifice a non-token blue creature rather than paying the cost, and that is a counter spell. So sacrificed his commander to do that. Yeah, we couldn't have afforded holding up the Wash Away anyway. Creeping Tar Pit being animated, going to try and knock us down to 0 life over the next few turns. Don't have any instant speed interaction for that at the moment. Plus they can redirect it with Spellskite anyway, so probably worth blowing up with the Bloodchief's Thirst. And there is a Ledger Shredder as well, so don't think we're longed for this world, unfortunately. Unless we went for the Toxic Deluge, but that would be... yeah, that would be for 3 again. So Vendilion Click can block this. I think we definitely want to get rid of that with Spellskite. So we could point the Bloodchief's Thirst at the bird and make them use some life. No, actually they had the blue mana held up and didn't look at how many cards they had in hand, so that won't cost them any life anyway. Down to 0 cards in hand at least. So we're holding up Vendilion Click. That's double blue and double blue, so we've got Counterspell held up as well. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4 islands that they've got, so they can steal away the Vendilion Click as well. The Darkened Shackles has been held over as all game. Dare say they're going to animate the Creeping Tar Pit again. Nope, that is Basim. So we counter there. And that does mean that they can't animate the Creeping Tar Pit at least, unless they didn't make a land this turn. Okay, a Tiny Bones as well. Oh, Tiny Bones the Pickpocket, that's the second iteration of that one. So they get to Connive, no cards in hand, so they just draw and discard. Discarded a Grief to that, so plus counter on the Ledger Shredder. Just a case of treading water and seeing how long we can last at this point. Did unfortunately buff the Ledger Shredder up enough to be unable to be blocked successfully by Vendilion Click, so yeah, so much for that. Probably best to just dig a card deeper into our library, but ideally we would have been able to block the Shredder successfully there, as unlikely as that was. So I'll point Vendilion Click at ourselves and we'll see if we can get rid of a Snapcaster Mage. Alright, the Darkened Shackles is going to be taken away from us, so that we can't block, which is what we said previously. So there's 5 toughness to get through here, which makes Toxic Deluge pretty useless. The Demonic Tutor isn't very good with Snap Mage either. Well, let's just put the Snap Mage away. Obviously knew about the Wash Away on top of the library, see if we can get into anything different. There is the Once Upon a Time again. So I doubt we're going to get anything of relevance there, but just for the fun of it, let's cast it, because I think we're done here anyway. And there's just lands. A couple of tap lands, we'll just go for the man land and play it. And then we'll crack a clue token before we say good game to our opponent. Yeah, just another land. So say good game. I don't think that was a terrible showing for us, considering it's my first ever game of Duel Commander. Can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I am just net decking cards for Duel Commander because I've no idea what I'm doing in this format. So if you look at the deck list and think it's absolutely atrocious, then you can blame the guy who built it. We'll try one more here. I don't think that was too long a game. Alright, we're playing the best of 3 by the looks of it, so we'll see if we can manage to squeak out a victory or not. Yes, we would like to play first. And we have a 3-lander with a Surveil land and some control stuff. I think we'll just try keeping this. I don't really know the deck, seeing as how I didn't build it, unfortunately. I don't think we draw on turn 1 in a 1v1 format. Let's just go for the Opulent Palace because it's really good with Reflecting Pool and we can sneak down the Surveil land at some other point. Drawing to Cephalid Colosseum. So we can sacrifice this to draw 3 cards and discard 3. Nowhere near that at the moment. Let's just hold up interaction for our opponent. Alright, and they went for the tap land, so not wanting to play their commander into interaction for obvious reasons, and we're not going to do that either. Probably just hold up 2 mana again. A Scalding Tarn to fix colours. We'll just go for the Underground Mortuary in order to surveil. And then we see another land on top, but that will be a tap land, unfortunately. I think we're best throwing that in the bin. Lorien Revealed is going to be discarded for an island from our opponent. Doing that at the end of the turn. And they go after a dual land with it. Alright, so just passing back and forth here, the 2 control decks. Gaia Reach Sanitarium, each player draws then discards. Maybe it's best to just hold that up, I suppose. Maybe our opponent will try to get us to counter something on our own turn here. A Sicarian Infiltrator, that is when it enters, draw a card. I'm not particularly bothered about countering that, I don't think, although it does switch off the Sheoldred's Edict potentially. Yeah, another land for us. So play the Misty Rainforest, and I think holding up Memory Lapse for our commander is fine. Now, there's no real need to rush out our commander though, because they're going to struggle to hold their Basim in play. Disruptor Flute. Spells of the chosen name cost 3 more to cast, so I'm guessing that they're going to go after Leovold with that. And no, instead they chose Misty Rainforest, or its activated abilities. Okay, fair enough. So note that in future, in Duel Commander, people do name fetches with this. So need to crack those in response apparently. Lot to learn with this tournament grade format, I think. Didn't even know this card existed, never seen it before. Okay, so Basim trying to hit play. Let's go for Drown in the Lock. And no doubt our opponent's got a counter to this, but we can always go Toxic Deluge if he taps out, because the Sheoldred's Edict isn't quite as good anymore. Allowing it to be countered. And then a Tangle Wire. So we won't have too much mana next turn. Not really willing to spend a counter spell on that. We get hit for 1. So with Tangle Wire it is 4 on our turn, so Misty Rainforest is the first obvious one, and then just tap down 3 lands. We've got a Tricycle land left up, so able to still hold up the Memory Lapse just in case. Got a Spell Pierce available to us now as well, so can go for a Surveil land with the Scalding Tarn if we want to. Now our opponent, if he stacks it right, which he has, he only has to tap down 3 things. So he's got a land and a couple of artifacts to tap. Arcum's Astrolabe, when it enters, draw a card, we will allow it. And True Name Nemesis. Probably just worth a Toxic Deluge next turn, I think. So no doubt get hit for 1 again, we'll go for cracking the Scalding Tarn at the end of the turn. And seeing on top a Tainted Pact, which I might regret getting rid of, but there's no real need to keep hold of it here, other than dumb luck. Let's throw it in the graveyard. So now we've got 3 things to tap down as well. It's definitely Misty Rainforest, Gaia Reach, just make it the Hedge Maze. And there's a Windfall, our opponent has 4 cards in hand, obviously we want to play that while the commander's in play. We've got Spell Pierce held up now, thanks to having another land to make. So let's try for the Deluge for 2 life. Alright, successfully wiping everything out there, so we'll assume that they don't have any counters in hand. And the Tangle Wire is largely irrelevant for our opponent now, only has 2 fading counters, and we'll be able to just tap down the 2 artifacts that he's not interested in tapping down regardless. Okay, Mystic Sanctuary with enough islands, I assume, in play, so goes after the Lorien Revealed, and that does go on top of the library. Then attempts the Basim again, so hopefully our Edict effect will still be online, because Spell Pierce can't help us with that. Spell Pierce can't help us with the blue Blood Moon either. So, being punished for not getting any basics into play. Got nothing but islands available to us, they got rid of our black mana just in time. It's very unlikely that we'll fix our colours at this point, although he did allow us to tap this down for mana again. We'll just... yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point, does it? They're all just islands. Well, there's a lab man. I mean, it was still going to be a turn away, and we would have discarded the Tainted Pact or Windfall to get closer to it anyhow, so I'm not sure we could have got that combo off. Could always go for Labman here and then hope it doesn't get blown up, and then Windfall and try and draw into something to fish this back out, although can't cast the Tainted Pact anyway, can we? maybe we'll be really lucky and draw into a basic swamp. I think that's pretty much all we're able to set up for here. And at least we can hold up counter magic on our opponent's turn in the meantime. So I'm looking through the deck list now, and I have net decked decks for Duel Commander because I've got no idea what the format's like and have no experience of playing against cards like this. But I'm not seeing Pongify or Rapid Hybridization or anything. Maybe that would be worth an include if this is a common creature to come up against. I'd really just have to play weeks and months of Duel Commander to learn it. At the moment, I'm at the mercy of net decking online. Alright, a Lorien Revealed. They can afford Spell Pierce at the moment, so let's just go Memory Lapse onto that. 2 cards in hand if we have our way with this counter. Alright, that is a long goodbye. Destroy a target creature, so they do manage to get rid of our Labman. I mean, we weren't likely to do anything with that anyway. Depleting the number of cards in hand though, which does make the windfall worse. And we take 4 damage to the creatures, plus counter goes on to the commander. And Tangle Wire still tapping stuff down for us, we'll just make it the Cephalid Colosseum. Okay, we can go for a Preordain at least, scry 2 and draw, that digs us quite deep. We've got Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, might distract our opponent. Misdirection as well, it all depends on what our opponent casts next turn, he's only got 2 cards next turn. That Lorien Revealed doesn't target either, I don't think. So in that case, Misdirection can go on the bottom. And we'll just keep Jace on top, see if we can distract our opponent. Do we want self-mill in this deck? I've no idea, to be honest. We'll just mill our opponent, get rid of that Lorien Revealed. Had a Spellskite on top as well. And there's a Bloodchief's Thirst for us, which we can't cast. I'm sure there's decent means of bouncing permanents and stuff as well, which I'm not sure is in this deck or not. Could be worth having. Yeah, both the creatures not being distracted by the Jace, they're just assuming that we're not going to be able to deal with the Merfolk. So plus counter and we go down next turn most likely. We'll at least be able to get a draw in first though. So Tangle Wire finally does nothing. Another counterspell in Mana Leak. Let's mill our opponent and draw a card. And an Oko, Thief of Crowns. So now for the fun of it, we are going for a Windfall. Going to draw our opponent a lot of cards here, so even if he can counter it, I dare say he's going to let this through. Goes for Otawara, bouncing this in response means that we draw even more cards. I mean, we already got the activation on it, so not really interested in that. We obviously draw our opponent more cards this way as well, and if he was just going to discard Otawara, he might as well do that. Alright, and no basic swamp available to us, because there's only one of those in the deck, so just play the land, and that is all we can do. Our opponent gets us on this one. Yeah, so not once did we get a chance to actually try and cast our commander here, I don't think. I'm not sure how good Leovold is in Duel Commander, I've no idea. Got down an Orcish Bowmasters as well, so that pings us for 3. And they've got 6 cards in hand at the beginning of the turn, so I mean they can definitely get us. If they just turn everything sideways here, then I'll assume that Ether Eyes and cards like that aren't common cards in this format, which, I mean, obviously I wouldn't assume that they are because it's quite a fast format. So it's good gain to my opponent again, and yeah, quite a good learning experience that. I think it's going to be quite a fun format if we decide to keep it up on the channel. It's all reliant on your good selves and actually watching the content, of course, so if you do want to see more of it, then share it with your friends, give it thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, etc. and so forth. Big thank you to the patrons as well for their financial support. There is a link to Patreon via the link in the description below. So if you want to support the channel financially, you can do that as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.